Slenderman, it's real.
There was this family of 4. Chris, 16, Mandy, 9, Jessica, 18, and Brandon and Carrie, their parents. They went on vacation for the summer. The parents wanted to take the family camping, so they stayed out in Brandon's great-grandparents' cabin. The cabin was the only one that was built in 1881 in the middle of the woods. It still was in good condition and had a great clearing around it. It was also used for other vacationers to rent out. The mother didn't want to sleep outside in a tent, so she fixed up a room in the cabin. The kids, along with their father, traveled out a few miles away to set up their tents and build a campfire. Chris and Mandy were chasing a squirrel as their father was talking to Jessica about how to be a responsible teenager. Jessica wanted to stay with her mother in the cabin, but she knew her father wouldn't let her since the trip was planned mostly for them. Chris grabs his crossbow from his bag, then goes after the squirrel. His little sister follows him. Jessica pulled out her iPhone and started texting her boyfriend. She typed, "LOL, you were right. This vacation is pathetic and so childish. I miss you, Josh." Josh didn't respond right away until 3 minutes later. "Hi, Jesse. I'm out with my folks at the racetrack. It's very loud here. Sorry to hear you're not having a good time. I have to go. We are trying to get our seats. I love you." Jessica turned the screen to her phone off, then punched the log she was sitting on. "No phone, sweetie," said her father as he was walking back holding wood for the fire.
Dad, what if Josh and I were dating?
Jessica said with a slight smirk. "No, that kid is trouble. Plus, you should worry more about school and becoming someone important. Or, you know what I mean."
But he's so smart.
No boys. Her father started setting out small chairs for them to sit in around the campfire. He started whistling also to take his mind off the conversation. Jessica stood up, then gave her father a mean look. They went into her tent. "Don't go to sleep, Jessica. Go get your brother and sister. It's getting dark," her father said. Chris and Mandy started following a small trail. It looked to have been made by dirt bikes.
Chris, Mandy, Dad is looking for you,
Jessica called out. Chris wanted to scare Jessica, so he climbed a tree as Mandy giggled, watching on. Jessica found Mandy, then stopped in her tracks. A single tear came running down her cheek. Mandy stopped giggling, as it seemed like the whole area had went silent. No sound of birds, insects, or even the wind. Jessica's bottom lip started to quiver. From behind Mandy, only 4 feet away, was a man lurking from behind a tree. He had no face, no eyes, no nose, no mouth. His head just faced Jessica, not moving. One hand with long fingers caressing the side of the tree he was hiding behind. Jessica was so terrified she screamed. Mandy's eyes widened as she turned to face the tall, bald man. She couldn't see him at first because he just about blended in with the tree limbs and branches. Chris yelled as he too seen the odd person. Jessica ran over to get Mandy as the tall man stared on. Jessica grabbed Mandy as Chris jumped out of the tree, then took off. Jessica tripped over something, then dropped her sister. She looked down at her ankle. A slithery tentacle was wrapped around her leg. It let go, then pulled away. Mandy was standing already and staring at the tall creature that was standing just 10 feet from them. A soft voice was heard. "Come, child, follow me. I will show you the way of fun and peace." Mandy heard it. It was like a gentle warmth that went through their bodies. They became at ease and tired. Both girls started walking to the man. As they were getting closer, they could see he was in a suit, a business suit with a tie. The girls were under its mind-controlling psychonetic power. Jessica had tears running down her face as she looked to be fighting it, her fist tight and her face a reddish color. There was nothing she could do but go. The slender man stepped out in front of them. He had to be 6'8" or 9. He gestured his hand for Mandy to step aside. As he did, she moved over to the side of him. The slender man's body started stretching. He became taller than he was. As he stretched, the sound of bones popping were heard. Jessica can tell that this wasn't good. The slender man grabbed Jessica by the front of her shirt. He slowly brought his bald, faceless head down. Jessica was now face to face with it. It then spoke. It had no mouth to speak, but the voice was there. You will be missed. Right where a mouth should be, a line appeared. The line formed into a mouth. It then smiled. Jessica was fighting inside, but she was paralyzed by the slender man's mind control. She just cried. That's all she could do. The mouth finally opened. Sharp, thin, shark-like teeth were in Jessica's view. The slender man's head tilted to the side as it was about to bite into Jessica's face. Mandy stared at her sister with a smile. She waved by to her also. An arrow hit the slender man in the throat. It dropped Jessica. The slender man fell to the ground, holding his throat. Jessica was finally freed from the mind control. Jessica picked up Mandy and then ran. Chris came back. He was holding the crossbow. Jessica ran to him and kissed him on the forehead, then told him to run. The kids ran, screaming. The sky became cloudy and the wind picked up. They finally reached the campsite. Their dad was sitting, reading a book. He jumped up as he was startled. He ran over to his frightened kids. Then they told him what had happened. He couldn't understand them, seeing that they all were out of breath. But Mandy just stared off, as if nothing happened.
Dad, we have to get out of here. It's not safe.
Jessica said. They all turned to face the campfire at the same time. It was a strong feeling that they were being watched. Standing behind the fire was the slender man. It just stood there, like it just appeared out of nowhere. The arrow still in its neck. It grabbed the back end of the arrow and pulled it out. Blood ran out the hole. The slender man healed instantly. Chris loaded the crossbow up again, then fired it. The slender man caught the arrow. Then it dropped the arrow and pointed at Chris with his bony long finger. "You stay away from my kids!" Brandon shouted. The slender man tilted its head to the side, like it was now noticing Jessica's father. A long tentacle whipped through the air, slapping Brandon across the face. Blood splattered out. Brandon's face was split in half. He slowly turned to face his children. Jessica and Chris cried as he tried to reach out for them. The slender man grabbed him with his tentacles, then ripped him in half. Their father's torso was thrown into the blazing campfire. Jessica grabbed her brother and sister, then ran. Chris ran ahead, holding the crossbow, Jessica carrying Mandy. Jessica turned a few times to see if the slender man was following them. Each time she did, she would see nothing. Jessica made it to the clearing, to the cabin. It was a small, but seemed like very long way to the cabin. She was out of breath. Her brother Chris was also. They tried yelling for their mother, but was too out of breath to make words. The slender man walked out of the woods straight over to Jessica.
Get away from us. Get away from us. Get away.
Chris was holding his side, trying to catch his breath. He picked up the crossbow, then started loading it once again. The slender man was walking like it was very angry. Jessica put Mandy down, then picked up a large stick. She shouted at Mandy to run to their mother. Mandy stood there with a blank look on her face. Jessica dropped the stick, then grabbed Mandy's arm, then made it run to the cabin. Chris fired an arrow at Slender Man. It pierced its knee. The Slender Man went down. Chris loaded another arrow, then fired it. The arrow hit the Slender Man in the chest. Chris spit in the grass, wiping his brow, then loaded another arrow. As he walked to the Slender Man, Jessica made it to the cabin, then knocked on the door, screaming. Her mother opened it, surprised. Jessica put Mandy inside, then ran back for her brother. Chris was standing 2 feet from the Slender Man when a tentacle came up from behind him, then snapped his neck. Chris was killed right in front of his sister. His body fell to the ground as the Slender Man stood up tall and bloody. He pointed his finger at the cabin. Jessica ran as fast as she could. She made it inside, then slammed the door shut. She locked it. Her mother was trying to ask what was going on, but Jessica wouldn't answer her. Jessica called 911. As soon as she dialed the phone number, the phone rang. Then on the other end, a familiar voice was heard. "You will be missed." Jessica screamed, throwing her phone across the room.
Where is your father? Where is your brother? What has happened?
Jessica's mother said with a look of fear in her eyes.
They're dead.
Jessica said as she held Mandy close to her. Kelly paused, then went into the kitchen. She came back out with a knife. Jessica stopped her, telling her not to go outside. A knock on the door was heard. Then a voice. "Hey, honey, it's me. It's Brandon. Me and Chris were just playing around. We didn't mean to scare the girls." Jessica was pale and shaking. She looked to be fighting with thoughts. "Open the door, babe," said the voice from the other side. Kelly took a breath, then walked over to the door. Jessica stopped her mother, and they both started fighting. Jessica knew what she had seen was real, but her mother will not believe that her husband and only son was killed. Kelly threw Jessica to the side, then opened the door. As soon as the door opened, the Slender Man was standing there, waiting. Kelly's face became pale. The Slender Man shoved one of his tentacles into her mouth, then pulled out her beating heart. Just before Kelly died, she seen her own heart beating, then it was crushed right in front of her face. Jessica grabbed her sister as they were cornered in the room. The Slender Man walked inside. Straightening out his tie, it slowly turned its head to face Jessica. He was so tall, he had to kneel down just to walk inside the cabin. Long tentacles swirling around like several arms, dancing about. Jessica held her sister close to her. Jessica didn't believe in God, but as she sat cornered, she began praying. The Slender Man kneeled down and crawled over to her, his faceless face in front of her face. For a moment, she could see her face reflecting off the skin on his face. In the reflection, she was smiling. She looked away as she tightened her grip on Mandy. The Slender Man slowly wrapped a tentacle around Jessica's neck, then arms. It made her let go of Mandy. Mandy stood up, then walked out the cabin. Jessica couldn't scream or talk. She was getting the life choked out of her. The Slender Man slowly and gently placed his head on Jessica's stomach. It could feel something. Not only that, it could hear a small heartbeat. The Slender Man let go of Jessica, then scratched a deep hole into her right hand. And another day, another time, we'll meet again, the Slender Man said with a voice that seemed to come out of mid-air. Jessica woke up in the hospital, out of a coma a few weeks later. She had not much memory of what had happened. The doctor told her that she is pregnant. She sat in bed holding her boyfriend's hand, staring off at a wall in the hospital room. The only thing she could truly remember was a faceless man in a business suit with a tie.
run away. Once you see, you will believe. No more sleep, no more dreams. Slenderman is now your friend. Blood-stained hands, faceless man, tie and suit, he's on pursuit. He will speak, he will say, you will be missed. Now, let's play. It's real. The Slenderman, it's real. The Slenderman, it's real. You will be missed. 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 You will be missed.